from Abuja.
Hello, thank you for being a part of our show. We appreciate you. I'm Magnus Packle, and this is Magnus Packle GVA, Global Views Africa. As you know, it's all about how we can raise the level of living. That's what it's all about. In view today, the second part of our discussion on whether the Nigerian economy is really bad. As we noted last time, the macroeconomic aggregates clearly show that the economy is badly distressed, with the unemployment rate at over 33% and youth unemployment at 42.5%. And notwithstanding the additional agony of rising inflation, there are other matters that we also need to evaluate to see the real impact on the people. I will try to discuss some human development indices of poor economic performance in the country, in my view, coming up shortly. Even so, we will first conclude our conversation from last time with Oyekunle Adesina, an economist and strategist here at EBS and EGDC. But before all this, in our hidden economics, the economics of high-level parties. Now, up next in our quick view, the food security matter. That's coming right up. The Russia and Ukraine war has exacerbated the already difficult food crisis situation the world was facing due to COVID-19, making people to become more concerned about food insecurity. Food security is a situation where at all times the people have both physical and economic access to enough food for a productive and healthy living. This means food production and accessibility should be timely, qualitative, and quantitative to adequately meet the needs of the people. The Global Food Security Index, GFSI, produced annually by the Economist Intelligence Unit, considers the issues of food affordability, availability, quality, and safety, natural resources, and resilience across a set of 113 countries. The index is a dynamic quantitative and qualitative benchmarking model constructed from 58 unique indicators that measure the drivers of food security across both developing and developed countries. A high index score represents food security, while a low index score shows food insecurity. In this connection, which of the following countries ranked the lowest in food security in the world in 2021? Burundi, Sudan, Syria, or Yemen? Which among the following key sub-Saharan African countries ranked the lowest in food security in 2021? Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, or South Africa? Stay with us for our answers coming up shortly. You can also send your answers to our social media handles and win a prize. Still in view, Nigeria. Is the economy really bad? A continuation of our discussion with Mr. Oyekunle Adesina. Now, up next in our hidden economics, the economics of high-level parties.
I can shout.
That song, Omope by Asake, featuring the great Olamide. Asake, whose real name is Ahmed Olalade Asake, is a Nigerian singer, entertainer, songwriter, media personality, and musician. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Theatre and Performing Arts from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, in Osun State of Nigeria. Omope, a Yoruba expression, strictly meaning a lucky child, is used in this song to describe someone who is really a star. In Nigeria, it would represent a person described by the young crowds as a happening guy. They would also describe him as a guy who likes to flex. Basically, he's the life of the party. So the party really gets going only when he arrives. He is the one everyone is looking for. So people follow him wherever he goes. Basically, people just throng to the party or the club he is going to. And there is the catch, folks. He is a big boy. And do you want to chill with the big boys? Do you want to bamba with him? Let me tell you this. Some of the parties you see out there are not for small boys. Don't go taking your girl there if you cannot bamba. A story came out not long ago in The Economist magazine describing the secret economics of a VIP party where there was an invisible system behind people spending as much as 100,000 pounds on drinks in a night at a nightclub, specially curated with pretty women. Now, there are many parties like this all over the place. Plenty of pretty women and a lot of spending on champagne and liquor. The only problem is that only two people tend to really know what's going on and indeed profit from it. And that's the bar owner and the guy who is the life of the party. Yeah, the happening guy. Yep, just him and the bar owner. The bar owner employs him to draw a VIP crowd along with unsuspecting people who want to bamba or play with the big boys. The VIP guys can spend any amount of money, but the regular guys and the pretty women don't realize they are being used to make the money. And they often don't have a clue what's really going on. They just try to belong by spending money or looking pretty. So how can this apply to you? Let me use this one example that you can use to relate to your own experience. Remember how recently in Nigeria, an APC presidential nomination form cost a whopping 100 million naira? Over $240,000. My goodness. And dozens of people paid it to become presidential aspirants. In the end, only one person won the nomination. The others had to pretend to be happy. So the club, in quotes, profited, and the apparent life of the party won overwhelmingly. A similar thing also happened with the PDP, where about 20 aspirants each paid 40 million naira, nearly $100,000. Only one person won. The others mostly went home sad, having lost their money. All the other political parties did the same thing in the high-stakes winner-take-all game, where almost always, using a clubhouse style of indirect voting, we typically all know ahead of time. the guy who is the life of the party will win. The others are made to think that they too can win, so they come in to the big dance with their money to spend. Therefore, whether it's a political party big dance, regular VIP party, or some social arrangement, there's usually a secret economy involved. And that's the economy created by the club to make money and reward the guy who brings the crowd, the guy who is the life of the party. Generally, be careful that there is no well-known life of the party or happening guy involved in your big dance, because the game is usually designed for him in the house. Often there is smoke in the house. You can't see well. The deck is stacked against you. They alone will win, and the cost to you may be ruinous. Our hidden economics for you.
Darling, never, ballin', forever, good day, gigi like a coacha, baby, enter, the money could you go paper, you want you a big boss, you want a bamba, shag bang, di bamba, yeah, order, aquaba, you can be gas, you can be Tomagana, Seki, never, abadola, politics to bash a sefa, yeah, give me pim, pop, okay, pop, second money go sucker. Back booty up for me, yellow pop. Elle est set. No de buga, set. No de buga. Elle est set. No de buga, set. Once a picking my lesson, we picking on that rose. My name like it champagne. Sorry for the shine, but my man finally, Mr. Money in show.
Before we start our discussion, here are our quick view answers. Burundi, with an index score of 34.7, ranks the lowest among the 113 countries considered in this report. Nigeria, with an index score of 41.3, ranks the lowest among the countries listed here. Nigeria indeed ranks at the 97th position in food security among the 113 countries considered in this report. So we continue our discussion from last time with Mr. Oyekunle Adesina on whether the Nigerian economy is really bad. Mr. Adesina is an economist and strategist here at EBS and EGDC. Coming right up is the conclusion of our discussion, to be followed with my view on the matter. So stay with us. Don't go away. So, Mr. Oyekunle, we continue our discussion on whether the Nigerian economy is really bad. And last time we were looking at basically macroeconomic aggregates. We were just trying to look at matters like GDP and inflation for the most part. You know, but as most social scientists say, they think that these aggregates are narrow, especially GDP is narrow. It doesn't really look at how people are living. They doesn't really capture the issues and the living standards of people. And they want to look at indices such as provided by the United Nations, you know, from say the Human Development Index. So is there room to do that? I mean, should we be contented with just looking at macroeconomic aggregates of GDP and the like, or is it fair? Is it easier for people to see when we ask the question as to whether the economy is really bad?
Yes, thank you, Prof, for having me once again on this segment. Yes, like you mentioned, we need to also look at some of these indices like the Human Development Index. Now, as you rightly pointed out, the Human Development Index focuses on three major things, which includes the life expectancy, the education, and broadly we talk about the income, the gross income. But like you said, it is important for us to look at that, not just the GDP. Now, for instance, the HDI of Nigeria stands at 0.54, and which is, we are ranked at the 100.
That is the Human Development Index. Okay.
Yes, and the ranking we are ranked,
which is measuring what?
Now, is measuring the life expectancy, is measuring the education, and is measuring the gross income. The income. Now, but what does this actually mean when we talk about it? It means that the people are not, the level of development is not up to what it ought to be. Okay. It means there's a lag. We are not maximizing what we have. Now, when we look at the life expectancy, it means Nigeria is about 55 years from birth, so which is low compared to other countries where you have like 85, most advanced countries. And when you look at our per capita income, is still a little above $2,000, and we have some countries over $60,000. So you can tell the difference. That is why people are saying it is hard. Things are hard. Now, if we also look at the life expectancy, what are some of the things that are involved? Let's look at the maternal mortality rate. Yeah. The maternal mortality rate, as it stands today, stands at 917 per 100,000 birth. And this is high. In fact, this is the fourth highest in the world.
917
per 100,000.
Deaths.
Yes, deaths
per
100,000.
Yes.
Now, this is the
100,000 births.
Okay. This is the fourth highest in the world.
Wow.
So, which is in fact,
not very good.
It's not good at all. Yeah. So this while looking at that, we also talk about the access to these health facilities, health care. Yeah. It's poor. You find out that things are just the government hospitals that are supposed to be accessible are now becoming dearer for the people to go because it's now tending to be as expensive as the private sector.
You have a stronger migration now from rural areas to urban areas. Yeah. So maybe that's also part of the reason people are complaining, because people tend to complain more in the urban areas than in the rural areas, where they don't seem to have much voice. In the urban areas, they are more visible. Is that really the case, that more and more people are pouring into the urban areas, so much that the urban population in proportion seems to be larger than the rural proportion, as it used to be the case before?
Yes, if you look at the proportion now, the population of the rural area is now 48%, which means the 52% are now in the urban centers.
More people now in the urban areas?
Yes, wow. They are in the urban areas.
Because that didn't used to be the case.
It didn't used to be the case. It used to be, I think, about 60% of Nigerians in the rural area, but now we have 48% of them. And what does this do? It adds up to the unemployment we experience. Yeah. It means a lot of people are moving from the rural area to the urban areas. And what are they doing? They are going to be looking for jobs to do. They want to get engaged so that they can earn some income. Yeah. And that is adding up to the unemployment rate we experience in the country. So that is also an indicator that we have to look at.
On that note, we gotta pull the curtain on this one. Thank you so very much, Mr. Kunle.
It's a pleasure.
It's been wonderful. Thank you. I'm Professor Magnus Paco, and I'm inviting you to join me in our meeting annual global conference of the Africa Forum at the University of Texas at Dallas, AFUTD. It is an arena to share ideas and practical solutions to the huge human capital deficiency problem in Africa, using study tours, product expos, lectures, seminars, workshops, debates, culture, and fun to promote global business partnerships and other productive relationships with Africa. Last time, we mentioned how among the so-called mint economies of Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey, Nigeria had become the most disappointing, as its GDP per capita shrunk 35% between 2014 and 2020, compared to relatively more favorable results for the other countries. We also discussed how inflation in Nigeria has exacerbated the pain of slow economic growth and high unemployment in the past few years. So, is it really enough to use only macroeconomic aggregates to evaluate the much talked about economic malaise in Nigeria? As we all know, GDP is a rather narrow measure of living standards and therefore an inadequate measure of development, as social analysts often want to look at alternative measures of living standards and development. Probably the most popular among these is the Human Development Index, HDI, of the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, which primarily looks at how the people live at the moment. Another indicator, the Human Capital Index, tends to not just show how the economy is performing at the moment, but also points to how it will likely perform in the future, especially with regard to being more productive. The Human Development Index, or HDI, measures a country's average achievements in three basic aspects of human development, namely life expectancy, education, and a decent standard of living. By looking at this broader interpretation of development, we can begin to closely evaluate what the people are experiencing when they say that the economy is bad. As we all know, some of the things that people consider include access to potable water supply, access to electricity, food security, affordable shelter, environmental costs, inequity, and of course, access to affordable education and health. These key indices are not readily picked up in much of the macroeconomic data like GDP, inflation, and interest rates. And so by looking at Nigeria's rankings using the Human Development Index of the United Nations and the Human Capital Index of the World Bank, we are able to confirm why Nigerians have tended to complain about their economy. The latest Human Development Index report ranks Nigeria in the 161st position out of 189 countries listed, having dropped 3 places from last time. And the Human Capital Index, which measures the ability of a country to mobilize the economic and professional potential of its citizens, ranks Nigeria at number 168 out of 173 countries. Fortunately, based on the evidence, as in the recent launching of its Human Capital Strategy document, the Nigerian government, led by President Muhammadu Buhari and vigorously driven by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, appears to be determined to make improvements. It is not late to begin to drive faster. We can get there. I'm Magnus Paco, and that's my view.
I believe.